Kunjabihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nisimadev, Jaya Nisimadev, Jaya Nisimadev, Jaya Nisimadev. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Shila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Welcome everybody, thank you for coming. So today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, concluding chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 27. Ragi karma pala prepsur. Ragi karma pala prepsur. Lupto himsat makos shuchi. Lupto himsat makos shuchi. Lupto himsat makos shuchi. Harsha shokanvitaha karta. Harsha shokanvita karta. Rajasaha parikirtitaha. Rajasaha parikirtitaha. Ragi karma pala prepsur. Lupto himsatmako shuchihi. Harsha shokamvita karta. Rajasaha parikirtitaha. Ragi karma pala prepsur. Lupto himsatmako shuchihi. Harsha shokamvita kartaha. Rajasaha parikirtitaha. Prabhus. Lupto himsatmako shuchi. Mataji. Ragi karma pala prepsur. Lupto himsatmako shuchi. Harsha shokamvita karta. Rajasa parikirtitaha. Ragi karma pala persur. Lupto himsatmako shuchihi. Harsha shokamvita karta. Rajasa parikirtitaha. Ragi, very much attached. Karma pala, the fruit of the work. Prepsuhu, desiring. Lubdaha, greedy. Himsa atmakaha, always envious. Ashuchihi, unclean. Harsha shoka anvitaha, subject to joy and sorrow. Karta, such a worker. Rajasaha, in the mode of passion. Parikirtitaha, is declared. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. Purport. A person who is too much attached to a certain kind of work, or to the result, because he has too much attachment for materialism, or heart and home, wife and children, such a person has no desire for higher elevation in life. He is simply concerned with making this world as materially comfortable as possible. He is generally very greedy, and he thinks that anything attained by him is permanent and never to be lost. Such a person is envious of others and prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean, and he does not care whether his earning is pure or impure. He is very happy if his work is successful, and very much distressed when his work is not successful. Such is the worker in the mode of passion. I read translation another time. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everybody again. So we are in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is asking at the beginning of this 18th chapter his last questions, his 17th question that he asked to Krishna in the whole conversation. And basically is looking to understand what is the technical difference between Tyaga and Sannyasi. He's asking, okay, what about these two words? And basically he's asking what is the difference between outer renunciation and in outer renunciation when I do different actions, and what about when you are inside you are renounced but still you are performing different duties, and how you can be in the sense that one is internally renounced and not attached to the fruits of his action, and this is all doing in the Jnana Yoga perspective. So as most of us know, I guess, the first 6 chapters are more about Karma Yoga generally, and middle 6 chapters from the 7 to the 12 are about Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 are about Jnana Yoga. So this question about if he should be about outer renunciation and inner renunciation has been asked already in similar way throughout the Bhagavad Gita, but somehow is asking it again and it gives also like a possibility for Krishna to wrap it up and give also a conclusion even from another point of view. Which is the Jnana Yoga, and the conclusion is still the same. So eventually Krishna wants him to fight, and he told him to fight in different ways. Like if you see it from the Karma Yoga perspective, you still have to fight. If you see it from the Bhakti Yoga, you also have to fight. And if you see it from the Jnana Yoga, the conclusion is still the same, and we'll get that in the famous 1866, then Sarva Dharman Parityaja. One thing that I was thinking is that there are different processes that are recommended in the Bhakti Yoga, and I was thinking, okay, like we see that no matter in which process and no matter in which kind of parts of Bhagavad Gita, we always get to the conclusion that Bhakti Yoga is best out of the processes. And I thought, okay, maybe this could be because we are into Bhakti Yoga, and that's why we're going more into that direction. But finally, all paths anyway leads to Krishna. So you can choose one of it, and what's the point of all this? Yeah, and then of course, like the question would be, okay, then why Krishna would even bother, to talk about different processes if everything would be the same? Then okay, Krishna, Arjuna, you can do whatever you like. You can fight, not fight, and it doesn't matter, because at the end, anyway, you will come to me. But instead, he's stressing different points in the Bhagavad Gita, and in general, all the teachers or experts in one field, and in particular, Krishna is the master of all mysticism. Yeah, so they always have in the sphere of art that they are expert on. They of course would have always advise students or people that would like to learn, or they are not so conversed with the art. They will always like say, okay, some things that you should be doing, some things not, some do's, some don'ts, and it's like in cooking. Yeah, it could be that one, for example, learn by heart all the recipes, and try to learn how to cook by learning by heart all the recipes. And this is one way, and it could be another way in which like he gets to see all the different ingredients and try out different preparation with different ingredients, and through trying out different combinations, then he learned eventually how to cook. And this is different processes to master one art, and who is very expert in one art then can always tell you like which what are the benefits of each process, and there's always some preferred way, I would say, where things generally should be done. And Krishna here is quite clearly recommending bhakti. In the end of the 6th chapter, the first 6th chapter, there is the famous verse 6.47 in which he clearly mentioned bhakti, to always think on him. And this is also regardless of Srila Prabhupada translation, which is very much bhakti centered, and it was something that I was talking also about it I think last time, or the time even before, that these are the usual kind of complaint that the translation of Srila Prabhupada gets, is that you would always see bhakti in almost every purport. Like you always give the conclusion, and then even like in the first 6th chapter, there are sometimes specifically in the Sanskrit verse, it's written karma yoga, and then in the translation you would read bhakti yoga, and this is seen in a superficial way that seems like, okay, this is some biased kind of translation. Instead, it's very much bhakti centered. Instead, is out of the compassion of Srila Prabhupada that it doesn't make us dwell too much into the technicalities of this process compared to the others, and then we get much into the technicalities of how karma yoga works, for example, dhyana yoga, and then we start thinking, okay, this is really good work. Let me try out and go for that, or maybe let me make a combination with bhakti. And instead, he always say, don't. Srila Prabhupada really help us to, okay, don't lose your, don't be too much in different objectives, but still keep yourself one pointed, and it gives us directly the conclusion, what is the highest in his in the line. In the section that we are now, it's from the more or less 19 to 40 verse. We see how the performances, actions are actually carried out mostly by the modes of material nature. These is what have the So this is how the actions in general that we perform in the material world are always subjected to the modes of material nature. And in particular in this section, different aspects are seen in the different three modes. And especially here where we are now, we are in the part first. We had the action in the three modes, and here in this verse we have the workers. How the worker, what are the symptoms, I would say, of how to see a worker in the different modes, and it is made also like in this way, like it's shown the different modes of the person, of the action, of the knowledge that was before, because you could see how the way how you are subjected to the modes, the way you are forced also to act in a certain way. So it can also make you see how you're very much dependent on the modes of the material nature, and what seemingly seems to be your conscious choice is most of the time carried out by the material by the modes of the material nature. And so, for example, here we have worker and action. So worker, it's here 1826 to 1828, and before there was action in the different three modes. And I was thinking of this parallel of worker and action as sinner and sin. Yeah. So how do we recognize a sinner? So in this verse, for example, the worker, I read it again, the worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. So there are the symptoms here that are described by Srila Prabhupada, by Krishna, of a worker. So in our example of a sinner that is doing sins, yeah. So a sinner must, it could be in the mode of ignorance, or a combination of the two, ignorance and passion, and would show some symptoms on, or what does he do, yeah. And instead, the action in this case, or the sin, is more, and we can see, for example, we can read one example of action in the mode of passion from 1824. Action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. Action here, it's seen to be, as we can read here, is nothing related to what is the action itself, what is the result of the action, how does it look like, but it's more of the state of mind, more of the attitude, and not the external happening that is. And this is very interesting how the action, Krishna is more interested in what is the consciousness behind, and this how a sinful action is considered is more of what is the motivation behind the action more than the action itself. Knowledge also, so that before this part here there was the part of knowledge seen in the three modes of material nature, and especially knowledge in the mode of goodness is made in a detached way, so and sees the undivided spiritual nature in all living entities, that seem as though they seem to be divided into innumerable form, but the one who is in knowledge then sees them as an undivided spiritual nature. And Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, in one lecture, very beautifully defined knowledge as the ability to see the world around us correctly. So I find it very, very interesting, connected to the verse, that knowledge is more of a vision. So as we perceive reality, This is what we can call knowledge. And when we have attachment, that in this case we have in this verse, how the worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work is in the mode of passion. So when we have attachment, our vision then becomes blurred. So our knowledge becomes impure, and it seems like we have a pink colored glasses, yeah, and everything that we see is just through this lenses of this pink lenses. So it's and the reality we cannot actually perceive it. It's like when we go. It happened to me many times when I go to the cinema, and I watch the movie with a friend of mine or whatever, and then when we go outside and we speak about the movie, then it seems like we saw a completely different movie, and this happened so many times to me, and this could much see how every experience that we do is filtered by our own vision of reality, and the attachments all make our vision then changing. And another example is when it happens that we see ourselves, or I can definitely tell by myself, when we have this tendency of fault finding, and then you can really just see the bad in others, and somehow it's so difficult to see other positive aspects of a person or of a whole situation. And when one realizes, oh, okay, I'm doing this kind of tendency, then it's quite refreshing to see, wow, like I'm seeing this situation, and all I can see is just very distorted by my own vision, by my own state of mind. And so one point that is very important is that from the vision that we have from the world, since it shapes our own reality, then the objectives that we have in our life, the life goals, the desires, then also they stems from the vision. So let's say that if I see that the world is all about having money, comfortable house, having a job and this and that, then my desires, my objectives in life, they are all going to be related to it somehow. So I might want to then get a great career. I want to have social support, like great friends around me, or family and this and that. This because of what is my idea of how the world works, and what do I perceive all around me. So so this is very important, like also to see the connection between the desire and what is our perception of reality. And especially desire, when we want something to happen. So it's so desire means that we would like something to happen, actually, to have we want something to situation or an action to manifest, yeah. So it's kind of like quite natural to have some expectation then on the results of the desire, yeah. So that's why we have then we are subjected to joy and sorrow. I mean, to have a good experience out of satisfying the desire, or we may have instead a bad experience when the desire is not satisfied. And we have very much example of that. I may give one when we are very much attached to being successful. Let's say we have, because when we have a desire, we can either satisfy it or not satisfy it, yeah. And let's say we have many successes and many desires of us because of our karma get satisfied. So this most of the time give us this sense of prestige, sense of pride a lot of time, but since we are in the material world, happiness and distress, they always come. There's not just happiness or just distress, and it comes accordingly and to everybody. But when we are very much attached to being successful, then we have this Shri Shri Pralad Lakshmi Simade Bhagavan ki. We have this this sense of pride, and we try to cover instead the distress, and we can cover it through, okay, look how cool I'm dressing, or I have this car, I have this possession, have this kind of position in the society, and then the distress part is then covered, and we sometimes also cover to ourselves. And this example also we see it much, and we can see it in the social media, how one would have his own page, and somehow there's this tendency of hiding what is the more distressed part of our life, and then showing up the successful part. And or it can be also the opposite. Some people may felt a lot of defeats in his own life, a lot of distress, and then they become disillusioned by life and become, okay, there's not really much happiness here happening. And even when there is some happiness, or like some fortune happening in their life, then since they are so morose and they hit on themselves, like burdened by the society, they just maybe work a lot, or always in distress, then it's even difficult to appreciate whatever part of happiness is also there happening. And lots of time also they try to find little hobbies or some other attachments like cigarettes or intoxicants, just to get some relief from the grief a lot of time. So the point is that attachment, as long as we have attachment to something, then we are certainly subjected to happiness and distress. And this attachment, since it changes our vision or perception of reality, then it keeps ourselves, it anchors our consciousness down. So the question will be then, how can we not be detached? How can we not be attached? Also because the desire seems so, every desire seems so naturally connected, yet to wanting to have the result. So in general, when we focus much to the external results of our work, then, as we said, we may become proud if we satisfy the desire, if the desire is satisfied, or we may become depressed or condemn ourselves because we didn't manage to meet our own expectation. But the point would be to see our work as a mean to offer our consciousness and our heart then to Krishna, to God. So in this way we will always be able to be our best, or the best of ourselves. And what it means to offer our consciousness and heart to Krishna is that the work, the actions that we perform are just an instrument, just a carrier of what is my devotion and what I want to give to God. And because Krishna is always, and he says it in Bhagavad Gita in many places, he's more interested in what happens to us while in the process of working, more than the results of our work. So and that's why he says so many times, especially in the first 6 chapters, to be detached, to perform duties without being attached to the results. So one can always try to be conscious and see, okay, like I'm performing this action, but what am I in my present mind? What am I giving to Krishna? Am I doing it in a mechanical way? Am I absent-minded? And so in this way one can always remember that this is the part that then gets accepted by Krishna. And in this way, when we slowly try to focus our attention on the process itself, on the work, then we are able then to be detached from the results of our action. And I was thinking then later, okay, I had a question by myself while I was thinking on this topic. So imagine, or not imagine, that when, so if all that matters is the consciousness in which I perform the work, yeah, the consciousness in which I perform an action, then the desire itself, does it matter? So I can have whatever desire, or I can do whatever action that I do, but if I do it when offering my work to Krishna, or like in devotion with Krishna, then is it all fine? So I also try to answer myself, or maybe I can ask you also if you have some thoughts on that. If bitte. Right. Yeah. So because said that to try to become detached, one would try to pay attention on his consciousness while performing the work, like, because that's what we offer to while putting our heart into the action. Then this is the mean how we can connect to Krishna and see, and that's what he's expecting from us. So right, so the question that I got to myself was like, okay, then does the result even matter then at a certain point? And also the desire that we have, let's say, to have I want to create an altar for Krishna. Yeah, little altar for Krishna. Does it matter then that I actually am able to do it, or not? Because I'm just focusing on my on what I have, and on my consciousness in trying to do it, and I'm doing it with devotion to Krishna because I want to create that. Or also I can do some, instead, let's say, sinful activity, and still thinking that it's for Krishna. I'm just trying to focus on Krishna. Yeah. Was it more clear? Okay. Yeah.
I think there's a correlation between desire and consciousness. If I desire to do it for Krishna, then I am consciousness of what Krishna does and does not like to eat. So when I desire to offer him something very nice, I want to be weak because that's not what he likes. So the consciousness, the desire must be directed correctly in order that the consciousness is.
Very nice. Yes. So he wouldn't accept much of adharmic desires or something that he doesn't like, basically. Yes, exactly. But so the problem is still that our subconsciousness is still, even if we think, okay, now from this point on, I just think of positive desires, of desires that Krishna would like. But the thing is that, yeah, Peter? No? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's so compassionate, so merciful that even the little of devotion, he would definitely take it. Yeah. But on the other hand, then by knowing this, one should not be then become complacent and be thinking, okay, yeah, then I can do whatever. Yeah. So there are these two sides of the coin. Yeah. And I was saying that one will start to think, okay, from now on, I just think of positive things, that desires that I can offer to Krishna, and so I'm done. I'm good like that. But this really doesn't work because the subconsciousness that we have generally is full of dirty things instead. So one is not just able to think or to control his thinking, let's say. And that's why we need to improve the quality of desire. And to improve the quality of the desire that we have, then we need to transform the vision. And this I go back to what I was saying at the beginning, how the vision, the perception that we have from and the reality, this creates the desire that we have on ourselves, the desires and the objectives that we have. So, you have a question? Is it no? Okay. So how to transform the vision then? Let's go directly to the point. So how to transform the vision in order to improve the quality of the desires? Does somebody have an idea how to transform our perception of reality, our vision? Yeah. Yeah, super. So hearing and glorifying the Lord. Shravanam Kirtanam. Yes. Some other? Yes, so yeah. Ich bin nicht sicher, wenn ich sorry. Mm. 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 Nice, yeah. 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 Right. Yes. Yes. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Also wanted to add association with pure devotees and the elevate devotees.
Right.
Because when they do kirtanam, chanting, they project spiritual life into the heart of the listener.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Very great points. All of it. Yes. I also find very much of these ones the chanting process, as you said, prasadam, associating with sadhus, hearing is so important, reading shastra, so developing the vision from the shastra, so connecting our intelligence to the scriptures, and especially on the chanting process that you were mentioning, that I was thinking that the chanting can be seen from so many perspectives, but I thought there are especially two, and one is to detach the mind from all these thoughts, different thoughts that stems from the subconsciousness, and then that we naturally see while through meditation that it comes out, and even unwanted, and and so through the chanting, through chanting a lot also and focusing on the mantra, then we also can realize that we're not our thoughts. We can a bit detach from what is the what is happening in our mind, and realizing slowly that we're not the body. And this is one side of the chanting. And this is also one reason why Srila Prabhupada has mentioned many times that especially at the beginning, in our beginning stage, we need to chant a lot, as much as possible, because of our material senses, the material way of perceiving the world that is not helping us to reach higher. But then also with the Maha Mantra, we're not only detaching our mind from our thoughts or from the material impurities, but also we are attaching to Krishna. So we're doing the same. We're doing this process together. So there's let's say non-negative engagement is a positive also engagement. So as I'm associating with Krishna, remembering Krishna, feeling wanted to connect, then these qualities are also passing through us. Yeah, we are associating when we are associating with different groups of people or certain situation, then we absorb. There is a interchange of qualities, and this is also a reason why on many books that I've read from about chanting the holy name, the Swamis in general, they always mention the Sambandha process, how important it is. I was reading The Living Name from Sachinandana Swami, beautiful book. And there are 6 chapters in that book: Yojana, Sambandha, Seva, Vipralamba, and Sharanagati. And he says that for him, the most important process, like the realization for him, was how to develop a relationship with Krishna and chant in this mood. Like first I realized that deeply that I have a relationship with God, who I am and what is where I stand, and what is my connection with Him, and then I chant with this consciousness, and this is called sambandha or relationship. And when we do in this way, then it creates an association, and also it creates emotions, and then when emotions are involved into the chanting process, then the samskara is deeper. So this also it helps us to purify the subconsciousness in a more effective way. So this is a way how we transform the vision. So, and the chanting process is as I was saying, just to summarize, it helps in these 2 ways: to detach our mind from the thoughts, but also to engage it positively. So to override what is there in the subconsciousness with more spiritual qualities and thoughts. And okay, what I wanted to say, just one last thing about, there was one word which really made me meditate on this verse, which is impure. And I was thinking, okay, why a worker in the mode of passion is impure? And in the Ashuchihi that we have on the board, Prabhupada translates it as unclean. And I was thinking, okay, how one in the mode of passion is unclean? Do you have a thought on that? Does somebody has a thought? Yes, it's a very nice point. Yeah. So there's some neglect of duty because of attachment. Yeah. Yeah. And you mean that these are all unclean, then they lead to unclean situations. That's what you mean. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Straight up. Yeah.
Otherwise, in the purport, such a person is envious of others and prepared to do the whole thing wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean and does not care whether his environment is pure or impure.
Mm-hmm.
And we should also not only know that the external body, like clothing, and also the mindset. He does not care. I mean, whether it is okay, but he does not care whether there's some action against him or
Right. Yeah. Very nice. I also thought of that. I would say like both internally or externally, without and within. Internally, you have unclean thoughts. Yeah. When when you have when you're doing adharmic actions, then yeah, these are unclean thoughts because they are, as Vedasar Prabhu says, like very away from Krishna, who is the purest. Yeah. And but also externally, you might then you end up performing actions that then leads to unclean situation. And I had there is in Italy there's this very famous actor that everybody knows, and is into the pornography area departments. And then I remember seeing one interview from him, because there was the title which he says, "Oh, this is how I tried to go against my depression." Yeah. And I was thinking, wow, okay, like in Italy he's really considered like a hero, because of his job and because of how he's successful. And instead he's battling depression. So I was like, okay, let me check out. And and in this interview he was saying how he's totally depressed and morose by life, without really much of meaning, and he's so addicted then to sex that that all his relationship got ruined, and it's so difficult for him to stay in the family. He had to go away from the family, and then his wife is then accepting him again, but it's all a bit messed up. And not only the relationship and the state of mind, but also the work himself that he's doing, which people may think that is such glorifying for Kali Yuga mentality, is that he was saying that it was such a terrible place because there was a lot of envy in the people, and it's actually a very, very unclean place. He says that it's always, especially when it goes for longer hours, and this is a proper work and it's very physically demanding, he says. Then it was so stinky in the rooms that it was sometimes they had to stop completely the making of whatever scene they were making, or sometimes they would get too dirty and they would ask again and again to do showers and this and that, and the whole place would get dirty, and he said it's just hell. And I was very so this is how when we act and in these impure ways, we have this attachment to these sinful activities. It really leads to unclean situation, even on the external point of view and the internal point of view. So this is what I wanted to share. And yes, and last point that also, especially intoxicants, we there's much of use of intoxicants that also leads us to impurity and clean. And I thought this unclean could be also connected to the four regulative principles and intoxicants. One indulging in intoxicants then it's difficult to maintain the cleanliness regulative principles, and especially in intoxicants, they blur the mind and agitate the mind. They release dopamine, they release different chemicals, and this is how it gives us the kick of happiness, let's say, and which is also, it happens in sex or other passionate kind of action, and we get attached actually of this agitating the mind moments. Also, I don't know, Luna Park. I'm going into this very fearful, how are they called? Like playing. No, the Luna Park. Like when you go with this train, fake trains, you go very very up, and then suddenly you go very down. Huh? Roller coaster also. Yeah, yeah. And these are all giving this very exciting kind of happiness, very auto or extreme sports, and they all give this kick of agitation of the mind, which seems to be in which seems to be happiness, but is actually very addictive kind of happiness, which lasts in a very small time, and then one's always want more because the samskara becomes strong, and as we know by the modes of passion, it quickly then degrades, either in total boredom because you want to understand the point, the futility of the action, or like in intoxicants, it's just harmful for the body. One becomes tired and this and that. So this was another thought about uncleanliness, that it might be related to the regulative principles. Cool. Are there questions, correction, doubts? Or comment? Yep. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Some other thoughts? If not, thank you very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Prala Lakshmi Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Jai, thank you. Yeah. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. What about? the translation, Prabhuji.